Hi there, and welcome, I guess. So today, wanted to talk a little bit about this green truck and what the plan is behind it and what progress has been made so far and what I hope to have done in the near future. And I'm going to start with saying that the goal for this truck is to make a straight axle swapped. We already have the axles. Four-wheel drive, basic off-road truck, very basic, not going to go extreme on it, try to keep the budget down where we can with the V8, hopefully an overdrive transmission. We'll see what happens. As for progress that's been done so far, as you can see, I have ripped out, well, I should say we, because this is actually my girlfriend's truck and I make her come by for every major modification. And first one was taking the bed off, but that's going to go back on. And then we ripped out the engine and trans, came as a 4-cylinder stick shift, sitting on the ground over there. A lot heavier than it looks. Then we're going to clean up all the grease and oil in here. Probably going to end up taking everything off the firewall and all the fenders and inner fenders and stuff just for cleaning purposes and later to make fitment happen or whatever. Back here, we just took off some of the miscellaneous things like the EPA crap that used to hide somewhere in this region. And then, took the bed off just to make it easier to work on. Gonna clean it up, paint the frame. As for near future plans, it shouldn't be very expensive for us to get that axle mounted in the back here because this factory axle's going away. Don't want that anymore. We have a 10-bolt axle out of a mid-80s K5 Blazer. It comes with the 6-lug bolt pattern. We have a matching front axle for it. So those are going to go into the truck. This one's coming out. Also, these are spring under, and we are going to be converting to spring over. It helps with the heights and everything. And in the front here, we're going to add leaf springs for the axles. Not going to do any coils or anything. Just keep it simple, cheap leaf springs. Probably going to buy some used S10 leaf springs. Just, I'm going to start with the soft ones, and if it needs to get harder, I'll go a little harder, but I'm pretty sure soft will do it. Because, half ton, what if it ends up too stiff and then the truck drives even worse than a straight axle normally would drive, and that's just going to become a whole nother headache that I don't want. There will be, we'll be welding the spring hangers like pretty much to the side of the frame because that's about how it sits on the front. Now, as for the back of the truck, we are going to be moving the leaf spring perches on the axle inward on the 10-bolt so that, like, we're going to take this, cut it off. I'm bad at pointing this camera. We're going to take this, cut it off, and re-weld it somewhere in like this region here so that it's narrow enough to bolt right onto the factory leaf springs. And then after we got that mounted, then we'll start dealing with the front. But then there's going to be the new problem of, there's a lot of people going on the street right now. New problem of the rear axle with leaf spring and everything is going to be so much lower than the front axle will be with its leaf spring, so the truck will have an extreme bulldog stance. And that is mostly because the steps in the frame here, coming from under the cab going to the front, you have about a 4-inch step, just about, give or take an inch or two. And then in the back here, it's approximately 9 inches worth of step. So that's a great big, that's like 5 inches difference in just the frame there. And then there's also going to be how it gets mounted to here will also affect how high the shackles and stuff are going to go. So that needs to get dealt with. And what I think we're gonna do for trying to level the truck out is build some custom shackles that are the equivalent of like a 3 or 4 inch lift, which I know is really pushing it when it comes to shackles, but I think we can do it. I work at a metal fab shop. I'm sure we can build it. It's just, you know, how it mounts, because this is already a relatively flat leaf spring. Right, let me see if I can get a better shot of that. It's already a relatively flat leaf spring, and then converting to be spring over, there's going to be a lot of torque on that leaf spring, you know, a lot of axle wrap pretty much, and it'll just be easier, you know, if I put lift blocks in there, it's going to make it even worse. So hopefully we can help take care of that by doing most of the lift in the shackle and maybe an inch or two in blocks. And then the front here is going to just be spring on axle, nothing fancy, keep it simple kind of stuff, so that we can avoid, you know, one, making the front even higher than it needs to be, and two, it will make it handle a lot, not handle, but it'll drive a lot better and be a little more safe with the least amount of modifications to the front leaf springs. Because, you know, I'm pretty sure I heard somewhere that if you put like lift blocks in the front, you're bound to kill yourself. So, idea is to avoid doing that. As of right now in the project, all we have bought for it are rear and front axles, both of them being 10 bolts out of a mid-80s Blazer, 308 gears. The front end is a locked, you know, solid slug kind of axle, and the rear axle is approximately 11 inches wider than stock, and the front axle is approximately 13 inches wider than stock. We'll be adding wheel spacers to the back to match it to the front, because I can't stand, you know, mismatch like that. And then the front will, you know, hopefully it doesn't, because if I measured correctly, that will leave the bolt flange of the axle like almost perfectly in line with the fender, which might give us some headache when it comes to mounting tires. Hopefully it won't be too bad. The goal is to just fit 35s under here, nothing too, you know, nothing too big, nothing too small, and just make it a relatively good like daily driver, and mostly mostly it will be like a parts, you know, parts runner truck, like a shop truck kind of idea. And every now and again it'll be a, you know, the toy. As far as the interior goes on this truck, let me see if I can find some good. Who locks doors? Hey, did that actually work? Holy crap, that thing hasn't worked the whole time this truck's been around. So for the inside, I'm going to buy a new dash pad to fix up this old dash. I'm going to cut a piece of plastic or maybe even some thin steel or something to replace the gauge mounting surface there, so we can put our own custom circle gauges in there in place of the factory gauges. Gonna do probably a single DIN radio with the CB radio underneath it in there. Probably gonna get rid of the air conditioning controls. It's very unlikely this truck will have AC when it's done. Where those switches are, that 6-pack looking thing actually is fully removable, so I want to build a custom sheet that goes in there that will hold all the toggle switches that will do the accessories like lighting and just, you know, like miscellaneous things. Will probably mostly be lights. I'm gonna try to keep everything that's on the stick there, as the windshield wipers and turn signals, on the stick. As far as starting the truck, it'll probably be a toggle switch that will start, you know, turn on the ignition, and then the key will crank it started or something like that. I'm going to try to keep everything on the key, but when I went to do it in my truck, it gave me a headache. I had to put it on the switch. Gonna get rid of the bench seat. Gonna go for buckets, because benches just ain't fun. Especially when your girlfriend's short and when she goes to drive, you have to ram your knees into the dash so that she can reach the pedals. Want to replace the door panels. We're going to put those panels back in the corners here. Headliner, probably going to redo it even if it's cheap and we do it at home or whatever. Just something, get it looking good. I bet you we could do it in camo because girlfriend really loves that stuff. I think we can pull it off. And it'd probably be a nice little detail for her. For the most part, that pretty well sums it up. For the floor, I don't plan to put carpet back in here or vinyl or anything. I hope that we can just stick some, do some like Rhino liner or Herculiner or something for the floor. And then for like sound deadening, put it from like right under the nose of the seat all the way up the back wall. And then from right above where you would kick all the way up the firewall. And just kind of, do some sound deadening like that, and even down the middle here where it won't be rubbed through by your feet, and just, get it so that it's quieter in the cab, a little more comfortable. Just kind of make it nicer. That's about all I can think of right now for this truck. So, maybe I'll make another update video on it sooner or later. I hope to share the progress of this truck more in the future, but that's all I have for now, so thanks for watching. See you next time.